Oh hey, let me show you the process for this 13-hour painting in 3 minutes. Let's go. So we start off with the drawing, of course. This is a repaint of one of my most popular Magic the Gathering cards, so I'm using that as a reference, and I'm also kind of tracing it using a piece of software called DaVinci Eye. Lets me superimpose the original digital painting onto the board. And here's Brandy to say hi and make sure I haven't messed up. Alright, now we're on the easel. Let's start blocking stuff in. I'm using acrylics right now. Later on I'm going to switch to oils, but for the fire, I started blocking stuff in with acrylics because it dries fast, and also I just wanted to get some practice in because I haven't used acrylics on a big painting in a while. So yeah, we're just starting to layer stuff in here in steps, bringing in the lightning effect with big thick paint. I love texture, and I really wanted to get a lot of texture into the traditional version of this card. Now, a repaint of a digital painting isn't something I've done before, but it is something that Magic the Gathering art collectors like, and this client got in touch asking me if I'd be interested in doing it for Force of Negation, and I was like, sure, that seems like a fun thing. And it was fun. You can see I'm using loads of different brushes here. Oh, Brandy's back, hang on. Give some love to the baby. You can see I'm using lots of different brushes here to get different textures in here, and you can see there I'm using the reference to guide me along the way, getting all those little dots in the right place. Here I've switched over to oils. I much prefer painting in oils. I have a much more experience painting in oils. Unlike acrylics, which dry pretty quickly, oils can stay wet for weeks. I was using linseed oil here, and that's great because I was working on this over the course of about 3 or 4 weeks, even though the final painting recording time was around about 13 hours. So here, again, you can see DaVinci Eye. This is what I was talking about. I can see my original painting, and I did that just to get the lightning in the right place because I wanted to make sure that everything was as close to the original as possible. See my messy ass palette here, mixing up some colors so I can go back into the warm areas with some oils and just blend everything together. Alright, so I'm finally starting working on the character. I'm just blocking her in with some small brushes just so I could be nice and neat. You can already see that I'm going to need to tidy up some of the lightning bolts or whatever you'd call them, but I can do that later on because again, oils are pretty easy to work with. You can paint over stuff, move it around fairly easily. And if you ever want to see my shoulder in 4K, well now you can. So everything in this process went pretty well up to this point. However, painting the face, you don't see it in this video here, but I did end up scrubbing it a couple times because it's just quite small. It's a tiny area, loads of detail. I had to really get in there and I kind of messed up the perspective a couple times and had to redraw it. But you take your time with it, eventually you get there. And now we're just kind of coming to the final touches, really getting in there, adding those specular highlights, popping out the lightning a little bit more to make sure it's nice and bright and matches the original painting as close as I can. And that's it. Who's this idiot? That's right, it's me. I hope you enjoyed the video.